Howdy everybody. We're in zone 1 of the farm according to the permaculture design system. In permaculture, you typically divide your property up into 5 zones. The house is really zone 0. And then immediately around the house, like where we are here, we're in front of the greenhouse, that's considered zone 1. Zone 1 are things that you're going to access every day in your chores. Here's Kathy eating some grass that I brought her earlier. And here are the babies. These are 2 males, so they're 2 rams. We had not named them yet, but we have now. The lighter one is Bobby, and he's looking at us right now. Behind Bobby is the darker one. He has very dark legs. He's Billy. He's a little bit smaller. Billy and Bobby are their names. Look at these guys. Oh boy. They're really cute. Howdy, Dude. We named him after the movie The Big Lebowski, Dude. Now, Dude had to be sequestered because he fought so much. He was attacking me all the time. But as you could see from his back end, he was attacked himself. And so we put him in a safer place inside with the sheep when they come in. And they get along just fine. And here's the Hulk and Superman. Superman is the one with the brown cape on his back. The Hulk is all white. Well, I planted some trees yesterday and I didn't have a chance to finish the job. So I'm going out there now with the Hulk and Superman to help me finish the job. Now you may be wondering why the Dude is inside the enclosed area and the Hulk and Superman are out here. It's because if I put them together, they'll fight to the death. Here we are. One of the challenges that we have here on the farm is dealing with leaf cutter ants. Now, I posted a short video a few days ago in which I showed a massive migration of the leaf cutter ants. This is where they were migrating along this fence. They've stopped. But they didn't stop before they almost completely disnuded this grapevine of leaves. So that's a problem that we have to deal with here. Now the leaves will grow back, but it really kind of tends to stunt the growth of a lot of trees that we plant. So you may remember from a recent video that I always put sheep manure as the final step of planting the tree. Okay, Superman. Okay, that should do it. Now, I've mentioned before in other videos that I studied a permaculture design certificate course with Jeff Lawton back in 2014, almost 10 years ago now. And kind of the final exam for the course was to develop a design for a property in which we were demonstrating what we had actually learned in the course and kind of putting it into action in an actual design. Now, the design process in permaculture actually involves quite a few steps. You're looking at latitude and longitude, all kinds of historical information about the property and research before you actually do any design. But one of the fundamental tenets of designing a property is defining zones. In permaculture, there's typically 5, maybe only 4. But the purpose of the zones in permaculture is to actually organize your land so that you're saving time and you're saving effort. For example, this property here is 8.5 acres. The house is right over here. We don't want to have a kitchen garden, a garden that we're going to visit almost every day, let's say, way up at the top of the property. It's very inefficient to do it that way. So the idea is organizing beforehand, before you do any earthworks, before you do anything else. What am I going to actually have on this farm? What am I going to do? Where are the zones going to be? It really makes you sit down and think and think really hard. And so when I got back from the course, I did that with this property. And I have to tell you that the design I came up with is nothing like the farm has wound up to be. I was pretty naive at the time, and here is that design. Well, so here it is. I have to admit, it looks like a pretty impressive design. However, it's a perfect example of dreams confronting practicality, and very little of this was actually implemented. I really wanted to show you this so that you could see how I had envisioned the zones. So zone 1 is in the red there, then directly around it, zone 2, the violet, which has a market garden and some terraces. Zone 3 is in white, swales and ponds. Zone 4 is in pink and several areas around there. And then finally zone 5 is in green. Now, we actually did dig some swales, but not according to the configuration that is here in the design. When we actually got into it, we realized that the design configuration wouldn't work. The same was also true with the ponds. We don't have the type of clay on the land here that is conducive to building ponds. And we also don't have the financial resources to bring things in from the outside, which would make that more possible. So we abandoned the ponds idea. And like I said, very little of this was actually implemented exactly according to the plan that I envisioned here. And of course, that's part of permaculture itself. That's part of being a farmer, is being able to adjust. Accept what nature is giving you and adjust. For example, I had these zones all defined. Now, the farm is basically divided into 3 zones. Only 3. Zone 1, which is the area around the house where the greenhouse is, where we house the sheep at night. Over here, the chickadee house. That's all zone 1. And then zone 2 is everything else. We don't call them zone 2 through 4 because we developed a silvopasture system here in which we have pasture in between food forest swales. And so the rest of the farm is pretty much taken up by those swales and pastures. We have 6 swales on the south side. We have another 5 swales on the north side. And then the final is a zone 5, which is just forest. We actually have 2 areas of zone 5 on the farm. One is down here on the southeast side of the farm, and the other is way up here, kind of on the northwest side of the farm. And those are both areas that we don't do anything. We just let nature do whatever it wants to there, and that's it. So what I'm trying to emphasize here is that your initial plans for your property almost never are going to work out the way you thought they would. You simply have to adjust. For example, the chicken house here. When we first started, this chicken house wasn't here. We had a standard chicken run and a chicken tractor house. It's still here. Of course, it hasn't been used in probably 5-6 years. But when we first started, we had the chickens in this little house. We could get as many as 30 chickens in there. And then we had a run right in this area here. And that run was protected by the standard electric chicken fence. Well, that didn't work because we have predators here that the chickens simply cannot deal with. For example, boa constrictors. Anyway, the point is that electric chicken fence couldn't keep the various predators out from attacking the chickens. So we had to build a structure to keep them in that would protect them. So that's a good example of things not going according to plan. You have to be able to adjust and decide whether your original plan was even a valid one, and you were naive like I was in that plan that I showed you. So we decided in the end, why are we going to have a zone 2 and a zone 3 and a zone 4? Typically zone 2 is for your market garden, and zone 3 is for animals, and a zone 4 is for trees that you're going to use for income. You're going to cut those trees down for wood, or maybe there's some nut trees or whatever. And then finally, zone 5 is just jungle. Well, we decided that system is not going to work for us because we wanted to have the silvopasture system. We eventually decided that. It took us quite a while. But because we went in that direction, the whole idea of having 5 separate zones doesn't make a lot of sense for us. And so we simply adjusted. We really have only 3 zones. We have zone 1, we have the zone 2, which is the silvopasture system with the swales and the fruit trees, which is kind of pushing together everything that would normally be in zone 2, 3, and 4. And then we have zone 5, which is the jungle, and that's okay. So I think that it's important not to get too dogmatic about things and to stop and think about, why am I dividing this up into zones in the first place? What is the purpose of it, and how is it going to help? And might I have to change? So I'll leave it at that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.